Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the FPL Addicts and Esports Live podcast. On the agenda today, we've got some corona problems at Wolves. We've got some medical issues piling up at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We've got our manager of the season candidates later up in the pod. But we've got to introduce our guest first, as usual, and we'll start with the man who I've probably harshly dubbed the worst manager I've ever seen. So I'm obviously not being paid to say this, but he's the best FPL manager I've ever come across. It's Jack Gillibrand from Esports Live. Jack, how are we?
I'm very well, Ollie. How are you? I love that intro. So much better than last week.
Yeah, you'll prefer the ego boost this week, I'm sure. But I'm very well, thank you. Also, we've got the Tottenham fan himself. He'll be a bit worried about the injury issues, but hoping to get a win over West Ham. It's Matt, the FPL Addicts guru. Matt, you keeping well?
I'm well, thanks, Ollie. Looking forward to the Premier League restarting again this weekend in the Spurs v West Ham derby game.
Should be a lot of fun. Now we've got the next person is my right-hand man in the commentary box. Describing him now as a bit of the Everton in the FPL world. He's been mediocre for a few seasons and has had a good start and everyone thinks he's class. And he somehow nabbed himself a spot on the guest section, which we'll move on to later. It's the right-hand man in the commentary box is Elliot Craig. How are we, mate?
Oh, I was doing all right until that, mate. But yeah, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, thank you for the introduction. Kind as always. But yeah, I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Now, obviously, this is the last week. The klaxon, this alarm bell should be ringing for anyone who has not joined the league yet. This is the last chance you've got to do it. So to join in the fun, join in the FPL Addicts and Esports Live League, you use the code WNZJDI, WNZJDI. Deadline is the 23rd of October at midnight. So if you want to join the league, do it sooner rather than later. Now, Elliot, over to you, mate. The three biggest results in the international break. Please explain what you thought.
Thank you, Ollie. Despite the absence of Premier League football this week, we've been treated to a variety of international matches. My first game to take note from was Switzerland 3, Germany 3, a massive 6-goal thriller which took place this morning. To Chelsea fans' delight, both of German new boys Timo Werner and Kai Havertz netted in this 6-goal thriller. Both Antonio Rudiger and Fabian Schär also started for their respective nations. However, Fabian Schär was dismissed in the 94th minute for a second yellow, which led to a red card. On to my second game, Dominic Calvert-Lewin bagged a goal on his debut with Danny Ings showing off his acrobatics with a close-range bicycle kick as well, with England's 3-0 win over Wales. Both of those players scoring on their first start in an England shirt, and Connor Cody also netted in his first international goal for himself. On to my final game to take note from this week, and it's Brazil 5, Bolivia 0. Roberto Firmino, who hasn't managed to bag in the Premier League yet this season, got his first goals of the season, earning himself a brace. Goals from Felipe Coutinho and Marquinhos also secured a good win from Brazil. Then this morning against Peru, hat-trick from Magic Man Neymar and a goal from possible ones to watch this season, Richarlison, secured a 4-2 victory for Brazil. And a special shout-out to San Marino, who got their first ever away point this morning as well. And that is my top 3 talking points from the international break.
So now we've come to the point of the podcast where we usually review last week's game week and see how we all got on. But since the absence of Premier League football, we won't be doing that. We'll be doing a little bit of a review from the last of the season. Elliot, since you're flying high, mate, we'll start with you. Second spot, you must be absolutely buzzing.
Definitely didn't expect it when the season started. I was actually a bit, wasn't sure how the season was going to go. But yeah, I've got off to a decent start. So hopefully we can stay up there and stay in the top 10. But we'll just have to see how that goes.
Never mind Everton, mate. You're more like a Leicester City. Surely.
We'll have to see.
Surprising one for sure. Definitely knowing you for years, mate. But you're definitely your best season so far. Flying high in second, you're looking to catch the man on top spot there, who surely he needs to get on the podcast soon. You'd think Taya Beng needs to get himself on the podcast. The manager of that team needs to get himself involved.
I think he's one of
our
international managers.
Yeah, that's right. He's based in Indonesia, Andreas.
Yeah, Andreas 9-goal. So we probably maybe need to get him on. Matt in 7th. So you're also in the top 10. The only 2 of the managers here that are in the top 10. 7th spot as a guru status. That's pretty decent, no?
Yeah, look, I'm happy. Like I was a couple of weeks ago around 30th, and to climb up all the way to 7th within a game week, I'm really happy with that. So, it's just I'm aiming for that top 4 come the end of the season. Hopefully, obviously top. So, see where we're at around Christmas time for me. But steady start, and I can't complain.
Not at all. Now, Jack, I can't see you in that top half. It's I'm wondering how the weather is down.
Just
Just
scroll. Maybe
He's
just scroll
scrolled down
down.
to see himself as well. I think.
I
I
think-
don't know why he's chatting.
Boys, I think when we're chatting about the podcast, we talk about the top 100. I think, we've got so many players who have entered the competition this year into our FPL. So it's all about the top 100. If you make it in there, you're obviously happy to be in there, and you're making progress. So I know you boys are at the top of the 100, but I'm more towards the bottom of that. We've got over 150 players in there. So I'll take 98th at the moment, but it's a work in progress. I've had a refreshed international break. A couple of players have rested, and I'm ready to go. And like I said last week, boys, I'm coming for you.
Isn't Dave ahead of you?
Quite possibly, but he's in the top 100 as well.
No points hits this week, Jack.
You've had an absolute mare so far to start the season, but sure, you can rebound. In
We'll
terms of myself, I'm currently inside the top 20. I'm 18th at the minute, which is probably a bit lower than where I'd like to be honest. I've had a couple of decent game weeks, a couple of poor ones, but hopefully I can break into that top 10 sooner rather than later. I can't have Elliot and Matt having it over me every single week. I've let them have their early season fun, and I'll be back soon. No doubt about that whatsoever.
Do you think there'll be? Obviously, we had Josh on the show last week. He hit 100 points. Do you think there'll be any more Centurions going into this week? Do you think it'll be similar to? Obviously, we had that wild weekend with United and Liverpool results. Do you think it'll be similar this weekend?
I don't see why not. I think it's been very who can score more goals this season. I don't think there's been too many clean sheets. It's goals flying in left, right, and centre. So I think it's going to be a very interesting season by those standards. So let's get all the big midfielders and attackers in, the defenders, keep it cheap this season. So it's definitely going to be interesting, but I don't see why not. I think there's going to be a lot of high scoring point weeks myself.
All right, well, let's hope for the triple digits, huh?
Definitely.
I think there'll be a few more amongst us at least. And speaking to one who might be able to get himself 1 or 2 before the end of the season, the guru himself, it's Matt. Take it away.
All right, everyone. I'm going to start with my 5 form players. So I'm going to do a Spurs and Aston Villa double. So, my team Tottenham flying with a 6-1 win at Old Trafford last time out. This weekend at home to West Ham in a derby game. And my 5 form players, I'm going to be looking at Son, Harry Kane, and then the double up from Aston Villa with Jack Grealish and Ollie Watkins. And then my 5th form player is James Rodriguez, the Everton playmaker, with a fine start to the season. But if we go back to Grealish and Ollie Watkins, they've got a great set of fixtures. They scored high against Liverpool in the 7-2 win. So that's my 5 form players. And now if we look into my 5 to watch for this game week, including some differentials, we'll start with Wilfried Zaha at home to Brighton. He's my 1 to watch for game week 5. Nice home game. Takes free kicks, I believe, and potentially could be on penalties at Palace. And then my differentials, I've gone for 4 differentials this week. One of them being Havertz at Chelsea. He's had a pretty good break with Germany. He's got a couple of assists in a recent game. He's only owned by 8.5% of teams, and Southampton at home this weekend. But he's in my own team, and he's only got 2 assists in the last few game weeks. But I do feel like he's due a goal. 8.5% puts him in that below 10% ownership. So he's certainly a differential for me. Another one who I just mentioned, Ollie Watkins, Leicester away, a really good run of fixtures after this. 3.3% ownership. He's just come off a hat trick against Liverpool and an assist also in that game. So huge differential for me. Another differential is Brewster, Sheffield United, record signing, Fulham at home this week, 6.2% ownership. So very hard to look past Brewster. 4.5 million as well. So it looks like he could be this season's Mason Greenwood. But again, he's coming from Liverpool, but he did spend last season in the Championship. It is a division below the Premier League. So whether or not he can carry on that form is to be seen. My last differential is going to be the one and only Gareth Bale. I've been waiting for weeks to really talk this guy up, being a massive Spurs fan, and at 0.4% ownership. I'm not sure if he's going to be the one for this week. Like, he's been looking impressive in training. He's been scoring a lot of goals. He's been posting it on his Instagram of him putting the ball in the top corner. But 0.4% ownership, good fixtures for Spurs in the next 4 weeks. Get him in now, or get him in within the next 1 or 2 weeks. You can't look past that 0.4% ownership. That's my my 5 ones to watch out for this game week, including the differentials. So now we'll go on to my 3 teams to watch out for this weekend. I'm going to start with Sheffield United at home to Fulham. Sheffield United haven't won a game this season, but neither have Fulham. So I feel anyone that's playing Fulham at the moment, you've got to back the team that's playing them. So Sheffield United at home, I feel like they're due a win. My next side, I'm gonna look at Chelsea at home to Southampton. I do think it's a difficult game, but there was a 4-0 win at home to Palace for Chelsea, so I can't really look past Chelsea. And then my third team is my own team, Spurs, home to West Ham in a London derby. But the likes of Son and Kane have been absolutely firing lately, so they're my 3 teams to watch out for. And lastly, we go on to the captain picks. And for this week, again, I've gone for my own team with Harry Kane. I've gone for Son. Kane been on absolute fire this season, the highest point scorer as a striker. Heung-min Son, absolutely on fire again, a double at Old Trafford and an assist last time out. I'm also going to be looking at a guy who I mentioned a lot on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Raheem Sterling. Like, I know he's got a niggle. He's got a bit of yellow on him at the moment, so he's about 75% chance to play. But he hasn't played in the England internationals. So Raheem Sterling, I think, put the armband on him if the news comes in good after the press conferences, and especially if Kevin De Bruyne is out as well. And another one I'm going to go with, I did hear some rumours from our very own Elliot Craig about some potential COVID-19 issues with Bruno Fernandes, but I'm going to put him down as a captain pick away at Newcastle. Again, as we always say with Man United, there's always a chance of a penalty. So I think Fernandes is another one for captain choice. And then my last one again is, as I say every week, Mo Salah. He's just come off the back of a double away at Villa. They still lost the game and he still scores a couple of goals. So captain picks, Kane, Son, Sterling, Bruno Fernandes if we get the go-ahead that he's going to play, and Mo Salah are my captain picks for game week 5. All right, so we've got our Scout 11 for game week 5. It was a very tough pick this week. There's a lot of close games. This is within the 100 million budget as well. So as you can see, there's 10 players playing at home. We'll start with the goalkeeper. I've got Ramsdale from Sheffield United. They've not hit the heights of last season yet, Sheffield United, but at home to Fulham, you can't really look past the Sheffield United goalkeeper this week, which is why I've also gone with Baldock in defence, attacking fullback, nice home game. I've gone with Castagna at Leicester. He's hit points in every single game week this week, but one. Nice home game, gets forward. I've gone with one from my own team. He's a bit of differential as well, actually. The Spanish guy, Reguilon. West Ham at home. I think after his performance at Old Trafford, he's going to nail down that left fullback spot.
How did he go? How did he go on international duty?
He did get a bit of a knock, they say, in the first game, but he did get the all clear from the doctors, so he's fully fit to play this weekend.
They lost this morning, didn't they, Spain? They lost 1-0.
Yeah, they did. I know he played in the first game for 45 minutes and looked quite impressive, but he come off with a bit of a knock, had the ice pack on, but he's been given the all clear. And again, I think we're seeing a bit of Mourinho mind games. We've seen it with Harry Kane in this international break. We've seen it with Son, which I know Jack knows a lot about that, and I think Ollie might know about that one too. So we've seen it with Son, we've seen it with Kane, we're now seeing it with Reguilon. We're also seeing it with Eric Dyer, who's pulled out of the England game for tomorrow. So we're seeing a bit of these mind games.
You'll never know if he's played mind games with Gareth Bale, because he's more probably going to be injured anyway, isn't he?
Oh, Gareth Bale, no chance, mate. So you follow Bale's Instagram this week, and mate, putting him in top corner, bottom corner, anywhere. any way you can imagine, mate. He's not made the team this week for the Scout 11, but if he does get some minutes this weekend, I could easily see him on there next week. So I've gone for Son. He's well rested for the last week or so, sort of 10 days of international break or since a game, and I've got to get Son in there. I've also gone for Havertz, who I spoke as a differential. Look, I've not been too impressed with him for Chelsea, if I'm being honest, but
No.
I did see he did made a couple of assists for Germany, and I feel like 5 games in now, you'd think he'd bag a goal. He's got a couple of assists, and I've also gone for Zaha, a nice home game against Brighton. I think there'll be goals. Sterling, he's got a bit of yellow there, but I think again that's just a bit of a precaution, and he should play against Arsenal. And then I've gone with Fernandes, who we've spoke about, potential COVID-19 casualty. I would like to see if he is out, I'd like to probably see someone like Rashford in there. But again, Fernandes and Rashford rotating on those penalties is what we're hearing. So I thought I've got to get a United penalty taker in there.
Yes.
We know that they love their pens, and
it's all we can score at the moment.
That is that is. And to round it up as strikers, I've gone Brewster. He's a huge differential. He's 4.5 mil. I get a good feeling about him. Look, he's in my own personal team as well. He's got low ownership. Fulham at home, I think he'll be raring to go. How fit he's going to be, I'm not too sure, but I do like him, and he fits within that budget. And then to round it off, my man Harry Kane. He's not in my own team. I want him in my team. I'm not willing to take a points hit right now, and I'm not willing to use my wild card, so he's not actually in my personal team, but he will be. Hopefully next week, and see how my transfers goes. But Harry Kane, as long as he fingers crossed doesn't get injured for England, and he's certainly going to have a big impact. Loves to score against West Ham. 9 Premier League goals against West Ham in his career. So if you've got him in your team, I'd be looking at him as a captain option. I've gone Sterling on this team, purely just for the midfielder and the extra points. But it would be a toss up between Son, Sterling, and Harry Kane for me.
I guess with Sterling as well, you've always, you never really know what Pep's going to do these days. He's played him in that number 9 role a little bit before. He's experimented with that, and with Jesus and Aguero both out, he could be given the nod up top, and he could be the man to fire the goals in for them.
Yeah, well, that's right. And in the game against Leeds, he scored, and the last 20 minutes, Guardiola put him in that centre forward position. He's kind of hovering on that left for the first hour or so of the game, and he got that centre forward position for the last sort of 20-30 minutes, and he did miss a really good opportunity to get a double. So I like Sterling. He likes to score against Arsenal as well. So for me, I think he's a solid captain choice if he gets to go ahead to play.
No room for Grealish.
No, look, no room for Grealish. Look, I did give him a mention in my 5 form players, but I just couldn't quite fit him in with the budget. I went for Zaha. I just thought Brighton at home for me is a much better fixture than Leicester away. I know Leicester just lost to West Ham at home, but if I'm going to hedge my bets, it's going to be Zaha at home as opposed to an Aston Villa away. Despite the form, I think now we're 4 games in. The next few game weeks, I think we'll start to see a few gaps evolve, and the league will kind of change. I don't think we'll see what we saw the last 4 weeks. I think we'll see a bit of a change in the league and the results.
Yeah, you kind of think it'll settle down with. You can't to get more of them results. Listen, it'd be great for the neutrals if you're not a fan of one of them teams on the other end of the beating. But you think it would settle down and more. It's down to business. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool, you can't be doing that. And obviously United can't be doing what they did against Tottenham either. So you kind of think it'll settle down. But listen, we love goals. Goals are great for FPL as well. So we'll see what happens in there.
I agree. We've seen it all before as well. Down the years, some teams have a good start and then they end up, absolutely nowhere. I remember a famous one, many years ago when Hull City were, in that sort of top 5-6 positions for the first couple of months, and then, next thing you know, last day of the season, they're in a relegation scrap, and I think they managed to stay up that first year, but come the second season, they were long gone. So, I never think too much about teams that have early season form.
I do like the Zaha shout as well. I mean, obviously we haven't even mentioned the Merseyside derby yet. Another massive one for Palace fans and for Brighton fans is there. It's probably the weirdest derby in the whole of the English Football League. It's Crystal Palace and Brighton. But Zaha obviously had a lot of his career at Palace. Obviously was there before he went to United and went back there. Loves a goal against Brighton, so I don't mind that shot whatsoever.
It's a good investment as well, right? With the run of games they've got.
They've got brilliant fixtures.
Zaha's a great option, and that's a good point, Ollie, about the derby. I think a lot of people forget that Brighton Palace is a seen as a derby nowadays, and that's going to be a very big game this weekend. And you mentioned the Liverpool Everton game. I've actually not got anyone in my team of the week, and I did reluctantly remove Salah. I couldn't quite fit him within the 100 mil, and it was either him or Sterling, and I had to go Sterling with the home game and after the thumping that Liverpool took. But there's still players from that game that I would like to see if I could have put them in, like your James Rodriguez's, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Mane if he's okay to play. We know there was a few issues with Mane last time. Jack again knows that one very well because he had to take some point hits. And so I still think the Everton Liverpool game will see some goals, albeit it has been a bit of a drab affair down the years compared to some of the other derbies. But I think with VAR and a lot of air miles in these players' legs, we'll see quite an open game. I think we'll see some sloppy defending this weekend in that one.
Great stuff from you, Matt, as always. Now we're going to move on to the guest section, and we don't actually have to source anyone because the guest is coming from within our own ranks. Someone who's actually had a flying start to the season. It's Elliot Craig, obviously. Somehow you've nabbed yourself a spot on the guest section for the first time. Obviously, you said you wanted to be here pre-season, and you've made it. Obviously, I've known you for a very, very long time, and we've had a banter about FPL for a little while, but you've never started a season as well as this. How have you fluked this one?
I thought you were going to ask that. So, I've been playing FPL for, I think it's my 4th season now. I remember the first 2, it was very rocky. I remember quite a few FPL suicides in that that 2nd season. But you're right, I've never really get off to a good start. I remember last season I had a lot of duds in my first week or so's team, but I don't know, a bit of mix of luck and knowledge this season, I guess. And I was trailing behind you for a lot of last season, and I just somehow got away from it. I played my wildcard game week 3 last year as well, so I really am not one to have a strong start. So I'm just hoping I can keep it up, really, because I feel like I'm in a good position now, but I'm not really sure where to go from here, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, definitely delighted with the start that I've had.
Some nerves setting in already there, huh? Not too sure, mate.
Well, I'm honestly, you take a week out of it, you've got to read up on what's happened, everything, all the players that played, stuff like that, because you never know with injuries and all that, if they've played 180 to 270 minutes of international games, which isn't very likely, but, they play 90 in the Premier League, these injuries happen and stuff like that. So, you can never be too sure with that, but hopefully he stays up the top there.
Who were you taking precautions on during the international break? Who's obviously a regular in your team?
Harry Kane was the main one. I think, the reports came out the other day that, he wasn't 100% fit, but he came on against Belgium, and that was sort of a bit of a, yes, let's go. He should be all right, should be fit for the game. And I looked at De Bruyne as well. He wasn't great against England, but he played out on the right, and he's also looked a bit injured apparently. So I think he's got the yellow on him at the minute, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm hoping James hasn't got anything wrong with him yet, so that should be all right. But I think going into game week 5 now, is it? I think I should be injury free unless Saint Maximin keeps that yellow where he's a bit touch and go. But he should be all right. I think he was yellow before the game against Burnley and absolutely tore them apart. So he can do anything.
So Elliot, talking about Newcastle as well, who's your favourite player from your own team, and who would you say is the best FPL asset to own from Newcastle?
If we're talking about favourite player at the team currently, I would have to say Alan Saint-Maximin. I don't think you can look past it. He's easily our most exciting player. He gets on the ball. We haven't really had anyone like him since Hatton Ben Arfa. So, he gets on the ball, he can take a man on, he can shoot, he can dribble, he can pass. He's brilliant. I also like Fabian Schär as a centre-half. He was brilliant in Rafa's 2nd season with us, but he's sort of been in and out of form, got sent off yesterday, but I do like them both. And then number 9 up top, Callum Wilson, or number 13 actually, because number 9's gone to Joel Linton this season, but we don't talk about that.
He definitely should have number 13. It's the wrong way around, surely.
Yeah, definitely. But
Doing Shearer a disservice.
You're not wrong there, but I've always liked him. I've always liked him, even when he was at Bournemouth. I've liked him for years. So as soon as I heard 20 million for him, we were going to get him. I was thrilled, because we've always lacked that striker, I think, and we'll just have to see how the season goes. I think we're probably an injury of him away from being taken back down to reality, but they're probably my 3 favourite players. As far as FPL goes, I wouldn't be going with Fabian Schär in defence. I'll be going with Callum Wilson or St. Maximin, to be honest. They both just came off massive point scores against Burnley, but hopefully they can keep it up. I've still got Saint in my team. I'm probably going to look at Callum Wilson after the Wolves game in game week 6, because we've got some nice fixtures then, and he's sitting at 6.5, I think. So he's definitely a bargain up top if he can keep on scoring. So they're probably the 2 that I'll be going with in your teams.
What about Ryan Fraser? Because he was good for Bournemouth probably about 2 seasons ago in Fantasy League. He took it by storm, and then last season he kind of went off the radar and obviously didn't do. Wasn't a fan in the good books with Bournemouth fans as well. Come the end of the season with the way he left and joined Newcastle. But yeah, what do you think about Ryan Fraser going forward for Fantasy League, if he gets games, of course?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's come on as a sub against Brighton. He came on as a sub against Burnley. He did manage to get an assist because Nick Pope was flapping his arms about at his legs and tripped him up for Callum Wilson, which was a little bit of FPL nostalgia for a lot of people, I think, seeing that goal Wilson assist Fraser sort of bring back 17, 18 Bournemouth memories for a lot of people. But definitely, I don't see why he wouldn't. He got man of the match for Scotland midweek in one of their games. He looks fully fit now. I think that was always the issue, having, he sort of said after the restart he didn't want anything to do with Bournemouth, didn't want to play for them. So Eddie Howe just went, that's all right. He's going to leave on a free in the summer anyway. So if he starts, I don't see why he wouldn't. He's got a good left foot on him. He can cross a ball in. He's quick. He can shoot. I definitely don't see why not. But I'd probably hold off him, see if he plays, because Steve Bruce is liking playing Jeff Hendrick over him at the minute, which is definitely a controversial one. But if he can move Saint back onto that right side, which he probably prefers, and move Fraser on the left, Wilson, Fraser, and St. Maximin doesn't sound like a bad front 3, and then Joel Linton in behind, just to top it off for the cherry.
We see a team there just to the right of us at the minute, and you're absolutely fine. You demolish the average, and you're sitting on a pretty decent overall rank as well. It's got to be the highest that you've ever had, surely.
I think so, definitely. I think, was it inside the 60,000, 70,000 so far? I believe that's what it is. It's definitely my best. I think my best finish ever would have been, I want to say last season. I think it was top 600,000. So I'm aiming for top 400, 500,000 this season. Hopefully I can keep it up and, break a new record. But I don't think you can go back and see where you finished. So that's just off the top of my head. So I'm not really sure. But
you can see.
You can.
So you can log on and it will give you your history on the desktop. So looking at your team, Elliot, you also lost couple of points as well in defence. So you did well. You got was that a -2 for Van Dijk and a -1 for Trent?
Yeah.
So you did pretty well.
Yeah, as soon as I put the armband on Salah and I'm seeing all these Aston Villa goals in, I'm going like, brilliant. But as you always say, Matt, he's fixture proof. Whatever happens, he always comes away with a goal or an assist. Usually, he's Mr. Reliable. You've got to have him in your team. Personally, I think him and 100%. Kane this season, I think, are the ones that you've got to get in at some stage, because they both look like they're scoring and assisting for fun. But yeah, I was glad with that. Obviously conceding 7 from Liverpool is just not on. Hopefully, it's not a routine that they're going to get into, because they'll be straight out of my team at that stage. But minus 3 points from that, and I took a 4-point hit as well. So it definitely wasn't a bad game week to have, and I'm very happy with that.
Obviously, you're outperforming Newcastle as well, Elliot. But where do you think Newcastle are going to finish? Obviously, they're tracking all right mid-table. I think they're surprisingly mid-table at the moment. A bit like you being surprisingly second in the competition. But where do you think Newcastle will finish for the Premier League this year?
Look, I think on paper we've got a brilliant, well, not a brilliant squad, but I think we've got a squad that should be finishing mid-table in the Premier League, around that 9th, 10th. I don't see why not, because what we've lacked for years is just that number 9 that can score goals, and it looks like we've got that now. But I think, it's you don't win a game by having the better team on paper. I think tactics, fatigue, and all that comes into it. And I think, Steve Bruce did an average job last season. I definitely think we got lucky on a lot of occasions, but I think if we had a better manager, we'll say, I think we would be finishing around that mid-table. I think it would be.
Who do you want? Who do you want? Bruce has done wonders for you with that team that he had. Who do you want?
Eddie Howe would be the man that I would go for. I think he'd do absolute wonders with our squad. Obviously, he already knows Wilson and Fraser. I think, it's easy to look at the results that we got last season and the shocks and whatever and think Bruce has done a brilliant job. And to his credit, I thought we would get relegated last season. So he outperformed me. I was always like, it's going to be a long, long season. But I'm not one to complain too much, but we've had, West Ham and Burnley were 2 games that we probably, I'd say we dominated, which, we don't often do. So if he can keep that up and remove a bit of the Brighton and Spurs football that we played against them, then, mid-table will probably be a shout, but hopefully he can keep it up. I'm rooting for him. He's the manager. You've got to back him. So I hope he does well. So
9th or 10th, he can keep his job, yeah?
Well, if he can keep us up, he can keep his job. But we'll just have to see how things go, to be honest. But Eddie Howe will definitely be my manager of choice. But Bruce is doing all right for now, so you can't stop him.
So Elliot, in terms of the 4 of us here, obviously you think you rate yourself as a good FPL manager. Your head's slightly growing a little bit with the 2nd place you're in at the minute. The ego's rising a fair bit. So fair play. I think it deserves to. But in terms of us 4. Do you reckon you'll be the top of the pops after the season finishes?
As much as I'd like to say yes, I'd like to say that I'd finish on top of you and Jack. But, you don't know how these things are going to go. But I think the Guru will edge it over me this season, definitely. I think, he's very fixated on the long game. And he's definitely said up to that 5th game week, he was planning his squad and stuff like that. So I think he's really going to kick into a little bit of form now. So I'm a bit worried about my position on the in the league table now, but if I can finish above you for the 2nd season in a row, Ollie, that'd be a win in my eyes, and I'm aiming for the top 20 in that league this year. So, hopefully that's where I can finish and have a good FPL season.
Obviously, goes without saying, best of luck to you. Thanks for coming on the guest section, and hopefully many happy returns the rest of the season.
Thank you, mate.
So now on to the draft section of the podcast, and Jack is smiling from ear to ear because he is top of the pops. Those words are coming out of my mouth. Don't adjust your sets. That is real. You may think there's
first place, boys.
There's not.
Top of the ladder.
He's top of the league. He's got 1 point clear of Matt in 2nd. I'm in 3rd with a heavyweight clash against Matt. If I can win that, then who knows, that might shake up the league. The Mac lads, obviously a band from the 80s, but also in reference to Macclesfield Town, which sadly this morning we revealed are no longer a club. They've been reformed to Macclesfield, so another great bit of work that the EFL are doing. But he's in 4th. Shola Abiobi Kenobi, 2nd in the Classic League. He's 5th in the Draft League, so he needs to pick up his game. I guess we can give him a bit of a pardon off the back of his good Classic form. And we've got David in 6th, James and Rolando, all without wins. Let's see if they can pick up their first points of the season and get their ball rolling. Onto the fixtures, I did just talk about a 2nd versus 3rd clash between myself and the Guru. If I can win that, then I'll be absolutely buzzing. We've also got David coming up against the Mac lad, so if my old man can win that, then he'll be flying. We've also got James against Rolando, so one of those teams will get off the mark. Obviously, it's the basement battlers here on the bottom of the league, so one of those will open up their season with a win. And Elliot and Jack, so one's been talking themselves up in Classic and the other talking themselves up in Draft. So who's going to prevail? Oh, that's going to be a tough one. There's a few pictures here.
It's going to be an exciting. I'm excited for this one, Ollie. I'm excited. I think Elliot's been obviously talking himself up. He's been a guest this week on the Classic League. I'm not too sure he knows what he's doing in the draft, and I'm going for a hat trick of wins. I'm going to go for 3 on the bounce this week. I know Matty fancies himself, the Guru in here as well, the Delhi Tubbies, but I think draft's my game. I picked well, put a few transaction requests in to strengthen the team as well. So I'm looking forward to it, and only time will tell after game week 5 this weekend how we go.
I think Jack needs to realise there's still another 33 game weeks left if you include this one. So, but look, no, he started well. I'm a bit worried about my fixture this weekend against Ollie. He had a poor one last week, didn't you? It was, I had a monster score of 89 points. So I'm a bit worried that maybe it's, I've used all my my points up, and I'm looking at my actual side, and I'm not really seeing where, I'm going to get the points from. But then again, I've not actually seen your 11. So it can always just sort of come down to who you're playing on the day and the fixtures for that week. So I'm a little bit worried just that you got a point to prove this week, mate.
Look, I do. I think you tripled my score last week. So, we said that coming against Dad was like the Fulham. I'm now the Fulham. So I've got a point to prove, and to do it against you would be pretty nice, because it would put me at least up into second. If I can have a smashing win, I might be able to dislodge Jack off the top. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, I'll be a happy bunny coming in next week. I know I've got a point to prove. It's funny because I was saying to this about FIFA. I'm the worst FIFA player in our little group of mates, and I've always got a point to prove. I always want to win games, and this week it's the same in FPL, because I need to win this week. I need to bounce back. I even won last week, but I had a shocker. I had 20 odd points or whatever it was. I can't even remember now, because I want to get that out of my system, and I want to get a win. This week needs to be a win, and if I can get one, then we're looking all rosy. But if I lose, it's back to the pack. So should be a good game. Looking forward to it.
Likewise.
Not fancy it, Elliot.
I haven't spoken this whole time. I'm a bit nervous, to be honest. I've checked my draft team.
Waiting for you to chip in there, mate.
Yeah, I was keeping my mouth shut. Draft, as Matt was saying, it's a long game. It's not a short game still. But I've looked at your team. I've had a look at mine. And I'm just going to sit back and take this week how it is. Anything above, last week's score is improvements. We'll improve by the week, and we'll see where we end up on the table come the end of the season.
Nice. Any transactions this week from anyone? Anyone done any business?
I think I've put a request in. Whether I get them will be a different story, but I have put a request in.
As a mid-table team, a low-ranked team, you should be able to get one of them transactions.
Get one of them quite quickly.
I've not done anything this week as of yet. That is subject to change. I want to bring in some reinforcements for the heavyweight title bout against Matt. So I might look to bring someone in, or I have absolutely no idea who that's going to be yet. I'm going to surprise myself as much as I'm going to surprise Matt. I think that's my plan. If I don't know who I'm going to go with, neither does Matt. So there's my plan.
Look, I think I think Jack's got the top. He's top at the moment, so he'll be the last in terms of draft picks. So, what you want to do if you're bottom, you want to try and take all the best players you can now, whilst you're in line to pick them up. But me personally, I'm not sure if I'm going to make any changes. I'm not liking my my fixtures for my lineup this weekend, but I'm liking my actual team in terms of the long run. So I don't know if I want to unbalance it for 1 week. So not too sure. But again, I do keep my my transactions under wraps. So even if I've done one, I wouldn't say.
Play now. Out of the four games we've seen, obviously Elliot and Jack, Rolando James, David Nathan, and myself and Matt. Which do you reckon is the game of the week?
You versus Matt, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, second v third.
I think everyone wants to see that and see Ollie Walker-Peel go further down the ladder.
I'm currently sharing my points last week. It was 27 I got myself, and that's the team that I had last week. I'm not going to bring up my team for this week, because obviously I don't want to give anything away. But that's how I looked last week. Obviously, Patricio with a clean sheet was nice. Defence gave me absolutely nothing, as usual. De Bruyne with a bit of yellow. He's my main asset, so if he misses, I think I can already, say goodbye to those 3 points. The triple Man City asset's never nice with Pep Roulette. Yuri Tielemans has to do something. And then my strikers have been good this season in draft. The one I thought was going to fire, and Danny Ings didn't. The other two did oblige, though. Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming off a good international break is always helpful, and Neil Mopai could also get himself on the score sheet. Matt, how's your team looking, or how was your team looking last week? Obviously, you had an absolutely mammoth score. Was it 89
Yeah,
points?
yeah, mammoth score last week. If I look at my my team now, look, I've got Salah in there. So like if De Bruyne doesn't play for you, and Salah plays, and that's a huge early advantage for me because Salah is like the man to have in. Him and De Bruyne are probably the two key players in fantasy league, and if De Bruyne doesn't play one week and Salah does, then I should be already looking to be ahead of you. My actual team, I've got Ollie Watkins in there, who obviously smashed it for me last week or a couple of weeks ago now. Away at Leicester, Callum Wilson, home to United, smashed it for me last time as well. James Rodriguez. Who else have I got in here? I've got Lloris and Matt Doherty. Matt Doherty might not actually get a start, but I've actually got Van Dijk on my bench, actually. That's a bit controversial for this week. I didn't think I'd say that, but I've got Nelson Semedo, Mitchell and Doherty as my back three. I've got Dean Garner from West Brom at home to Burnley, so I'm kind of got a bit of hope that he might grab a goal on that one. So goalkeepers, I've got the Crystal Palace goalkeeper, Guaita up against Lloris. I've gone for Lloris, although Palace are very tight at the back. I just feel Spurs were overdue a clean sheet. So I've got a nice team on paper, but I sometimes find it. I've got like Salah and Rodriguez in the same game, so I'm going to need goals from both teams to get anything from them. I've got Antonio in there as well, actually. So that if we do concede against West Ham, then obviously I don't want it to happen. But if we do, then as long as it's him that scores. But team's looking quite good. I just had a quick peek at your team before, Ollie, and I am a bit, like you said before, I'm a bit worried about Malpe and Calvert-Lewin. And Ings. They're probably the three I'm really worried about for you. But if De Bruyne doesn't play, then I'm quite confident that Salah will come away with at least a goal.
So now to the point of the podcast where we're going to go over each other's teams and see the plans that we have made on our, obviously through the guest section, we went through Elliot's team, so we're not going to go through that at length as we usually would. So we're going to go Matt straight to you. Bit of yellow there I see on your team. Are you going to be trying to solve that or going somewhere else?
The last game week I had yellow on St. Maximin, Son and Richarlison. And I got results from Son and St. Maximin. And Richarlison, he did start that game, although he did come off injured. So now I'm going to stick with my guns again. I'm not going to make any fire sales. Looking at my team this week, it's probably signs that the long game is slowly starting to pay off, albeit it's still only 5 game weeks in. But I finally got some bench players. I've got Semedo and Mitchell on the bench, and I've still not decided whether or not I'm going to bring them in. I'm not 100% certain on my lineup. I'm sticking. In terms of transfers as well, I'm tempted to actually not make a transfer this week. So unless Sterling is 100% ruled out, I might actually just save up the 2 transfers for next week, because my plan is to bring in Harry Kane. So I'm going to give Havertz another game week. If he does perform, I'll probably keep him. If he doesn't perform, he's coming out. Probably downgrade Havertz to sort of a 5.5 or 6 million pound range midfielder, and then I'll swap Richarlison for Kane, and then I'll probably then revert to a 4 at the back with Semedo, Alexander-Arnold, Justin, and Mitchell or Doherty. So look, this is probably the first time I've actually had a lot of options in my team. I'm still not sure who to play. I'm liking Mitchell at home to Brighton, but if Matt Doherty gets the nod, I'm liking him at home to West Ham. And Alexander-Arnold just coming off the back of 7 goals shipped, but it's hard to bench him because he does take free kicks, he takes corners. So I just feel the one week you put him on the bench, he'll end up getting a goal or a goal and assist or whatnot. So he can get points even if they do concede goals. I've got James Justin in there. I've got him over Mitchell and Semedo at the moment, but again, I'm still not too sure because Villa are free scoring at the moment, and I've got my man Brewster, who I've had all season. He's finally not in a Liverpool shirt, and he's got Fulham at home on his debut. Can ask for a better fixture. And then captains, I've gone Son, and although he's had a break, I'm a little bit worried because he's not scored at home for us this season. So he got the blank against Newcastle where he did hit the bar and the post. He come off with the mysterious injury at half time, and then we had the game against Everton where he didn't score. But then he's got the double against, or the 4 goals against Southampton and the 2 goals against Man United and the assists. So I think for me, he's my favourite, but I'm a bit sceptical because he's not scored at home, and I've got the vice captain on Salah. So look, for now, I'm going to say that I'm not going to make a transfer, but I'll listen closely to the press conferences on Friday, and if I hear any sort of bad news with Sterling or any of my other players, then, or one of my premium options anyway, then I might need to do a transfer. But for now, I'm thinking about doing the old save 2 transfers, because effectively to save 2 transfers, I could then maybe take a -4 hit next week, have 3 transfers, and it's kind of like a mini wild card. So yeah, look, that's my my kind of plan. But look, we'll see how we go.
Quickly over to my side of the story. I've actually got similar plans to Matt, but they all hedge on Kevin De Bruyne in midfield. Obviously, got a decent fixture against Arsenal at home, so I'll be watching the press conferences as well just to see whether he will play. If he doesn't, I might have to move him on, depending on how severe the injury is, or I could just keep hold and roll over. My plan is to roll over. My plan always was to roll over. Obviously, a bit of yellow also with Tariq Lamptey down there at Brighton, so there's a bit of an issue there. I've got reinforcements on the bench, likes of Keita there. He might have to come on for Lamptey if need be. But obviously the Chelsea fixture for Southampton, obviously triple Southampton assets, not great. I knew this would be a problem, but as a negotiator, because they've got decent fixtures after this, Southampton, you can see on the screen there, Everton, Villa, Newcastle, and Wolves are all 3s in the FDR, so I'm not really too worried about that too much. And obviously up top, I'm thinking of captaining either Harry Kane or Mohamed Salah. Obviously, Salah loves to score in a Merseyside derby. Obviously, it was a 0-0 there last season at Goodison Park, so I think I'm going to steer away and I'm going to go with Harry Kane. Loves a good London derby. West Ham aren't in the greatest form despite a 4-0 win over Wolves earlier in the season. I think I'm going to captain Harry Kane. He's projected to get me 29 points as my captain pick, so I don't think I could really go wrong there. I think I'll be giving Harry Kane the armband, and I think Salah will get my vice before the game week. But all those plans could change if Kevin De Bruyne is ruled out. Jack, how are you planning to attack this game week?
Well, I want to carry on the form from last week. From game week 4, sorry. But I am waiting, obviously, after the rest of the international games are played out, look towards that press conference. And then I'm thinking of playing my wild card, if I'm honest, lads. Even though I've hit some good form, my defence I'm not happy with, because like Reece James, I think he's going to be out of the team for a while now. I'm just not too confident Frank's going to keep him with Chilwell left back, even though Chilwell's got an injury. But then Azpilicueta in right back. If he's playing a 4 at the back, Reece James isn't going to get a look in, is he? Just depends what Frank does on that one. And Holding against City, obviously it's not looking great, and my bench is pretty weak. My midfield is obviously quite strong, but with Willian, I think, like I say, he's not there. I think he'll get rotated out. He's obviously started pretty well, but gone quiet. And then De Bruyne and Sterling. I didn't really want Sterling in my team, but I had no choice last week on game week 4. But with the Guru backing him up a fair bit, I might obviously keep him in now. But I'm dying to get Son, Kane, and Zaha in. So if I want them, I'm going to have to play the wild card, I think. So we'll see how that goes, and obviously you'll have to tune in next week to see if I did play that one in the end or not. Might be a bit of a panic last second one, depending on what happens with injuries, of course, and fitness at the press conference.
So Jack's plans are all up in the air. Now, just quickly to round off the FPL podcast for the week, we're just going to step away from FPL ever so slightly, and we're going to have a bit of a Premier League focus. So just quickly, we've got our manager of the season so far. So we want one quick nominee from each person. I'll take the obvious one so far, and I want to say Carlo Ancelotti has been my manager of the season for Everton. Jack, who have you seen as impressive from the dugout?
I think I've got to agree with you. Carlo Ancelotti's come in and he's looked great. So he's an absolute master. genius. So if he carries on the way he's going, Ancelotti all the way.
Elliot, over to you. Any different opinions?
Well, Ancelotti's the obvious choice. I think Dean Smith as well from Aston Villa. He's got off to a good start with them. You know, they haven't lost yet this season. They've only conceded 2 goals coming from Liverpool, which isn't bad by any means. But I also think, as an outside shout, it might sound a bit silly, but I think Jose Mourinho's really managed that Spurs squad quite well recently with the mass amounts of fixtures they've had.
You only have one, Elliot. Pick one. Come on. Can't pick them
But
all.
it has to be Carlo Ancelotti.
Matt, are we going for a clean sweep for the Italian?
Look, it's hard not to say Ancelotti, David Moyes. I think done well in the last couple of games. Mourinho as well, but I can't take away a team that's won their first 4. So for now, I'm going to go Ancelotti. But I will say let's see how we're looking in the 10 or 15 games time. But for the first 4, Ancelotti, 100%, 4 wins from 4.
Next thing on the agenda, first manager sacked. I think Scott Parker is the one for me. Obviously, he did really well getting Fulham back up from the Championship last season through the playoffs, but I don't think he can hack it. And obviously, we're still with Slavisa Jokanovic and Fulham's last spell. The owners do like to pull the trigger if they don't start well. So Scott Parker is the first manager to get the axe from me. Jack, any other managers you see other than Ole?
Ollie, the rumours going around about Poch coming in. Obviously, they're getting stronger each week, but I think, Scott Parker, as good as he looks on the sideline in his suit and his shirt, I think Scott Parker will be the first one out.
Elliot, any other news? Any other opinions? Do you reckon it will be Scott Parker, or are you looking elsewhere?
Yeah, look, I think it's got to be Scott Parker for me. He was very vocal in press conferences about, they didn't get the players in they wanted. So I think the owners won't be too big fans of that. And I think he'll probably be the first one out the door, to be honest.
And Matt, to round off, any other opinions?
Look, I'm surprised with all the Parkers because Fulham didn't really get too long to sign players. But you kind of sway me towards Parker a little bit. Look, I was going to say Frank Lampard, based on some early season form for Chelsea, but they did win. They did win recently, so I think for him it's more where he ends up because they've spent a lot of money. Look, I'm not going to go Scott Parker because he was a good player for Spurs, and my nan is a big Fulham fan, so I'm going to go with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Is going to be the first man to get fired, especially if Newcastle win this weekend. But I don't want it to happen because I don't want to see Poch at United.
I think the whole league wants Solskjaer to stay in the job, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, same here.
I don't think they want Pochettino coming in with that Man United squad at all.
Yeah.
No.
They've gone bang on the Norwegian PE teacher. And just very quickly to round off, best summer signing. I think for me, James Rodriguez. I know I'm taking all the obvious ones, but I'm loving what he's doing down there at Goodison Park, the Colombian coming in, and he's set the Premier League alight. Any differential transfer shouts, or is it all about James?
I think Ben Chilwell is going to be a cracking player for Chelsea. I think they got him quite cheap, to be fair, as well. And if he starts off like he did in that first game, I think he'll be flying. So I'll say something a bit different and say Ben Chilwell.
He's up there for me as well. I think he'll be great. Elliot, are you going for the tune? Obviously, a bit of action down there at St James's Park. You saw people coming in on helicopters. Bit extravagant. Anything from down there, or are you looking elsewhere?
You have absolutely read my mind, mate. If I'm not saying James Rodriguez, you can't look past Callum Wilson, in my opinion. 4 games, 4 goals. It's what you bought him for, £20 million. Yeah. Premier League proven. Yeah, I think, if you're not going to go James, who's the obvious shout, Callum Wilson for me, probably.
Callum Wilson to the tune in a helicopter. Don't you just love to see it? And now, Matt, finally to you. We know exactly what you're going to say here.
Hasn't played a minute yet.
It's got to be Gareth Bale.
Oh, shock horror.
But shock. But that's I'm looking at it from the bigger picture, the overall for the full season. He doesn't just bring stuff on the pitch as well. It's his his presence on the training ground. If we're doing it up to now, then I'd probably look at James. But if I'm going overall, it's Bale. I think Spurs. We've made some good signings. Højbjerg is another one, but
does Bale count loan signing? Is that a signing?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Look, if you want to do full transfer, I'm actually going to say Højbjerg from Spurs, because he looks like the glue in that midfield. He was absolutely dominant in the game against United, and he's also had a good game against Newcastle. And I feel like they're those players that can be quite underrated that get signed. They're not the glamorous players. So if we're looking at full transfer for the price he was, and then I'd probably say him. But if loans count, it's Gareth Bale, 100% for me, and that would be my call, even if he did sign for any other team other than Arsenal. I like James though. I do like James, but
yeah, of course. I think he was the obvious one for everyone, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, something a bit different.
Everton will fade off, I think.
Yeah. I'll just wait to see if that prophecy comes true. Rounds off the end of our podcast for the week. Same time, same channel next week, Steve, if we can come up on our promises. Obviously, Elliot, you've got a lot to answer for. If you had a shopping game week, come this time next week. But if you're not, if you're flying, if you've dislodged 9 grand at the top of the week, then top of the table rather, you will be obviously smiling from ear to ear. We'll have to see if that happens. For now, though, that's it for the FPL Addicts and Esports Live podcast. Join the league with the code as follows. This is the final week you get to do it. So I'll reiterate the code one last time. It's WNZJDI. WNZJDI. Deadline 23rd of October, 11:59 p.m. Lads, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye for now.